Hello my frugal friends, welcome back to our place for another What's for Dinner video. Now in today's video we are actually starting to run on fumes here for food in the caravan. We've been exploring Central Australia for a couple of weeks. It's been a little while since we've popped into the supermarket and we're starting to get down into the dregs of what's left in the freezer, the pantry, and there's a teeny tiny bit of fresh stuff that we need to use up. So today's video is going to be focused on pulling together meals when it looks like there isn't really a lot left in the pantry. Right, guys, well this is a quick look at the pretty sad state of affairs in the fridge at the moment. As far as fresh stuff goes in here, I've got some carrots that need using. I have some celery that is looking like it probably needs to go out, if not be used pretty immediately. Some small containers with some leftovers, but not a lot else. Lots of condiments and things like that, but a very sad looking banana in there. That's some more leftovers, some leftovers. So lunches probably covered fairly easily with leftovers. That's overnight oats for tomorrow. Some beetroot that needs using, and we are onto the tinned fruit. So that's the situation in the fridge. It's okay though because we've got beer, but not a lot of fresh stuff to work with at this stage. We are doing okay in the freezer department though, so we've still got lots of bags of frozen veg, mixed assortment of things that I can use here. There's nothing left in the car, fridge, freezer anymore. It's all in here now, and this is what we are down to. But there is actually a fair bit in here, so that's some more celery, bits and pieces up the top here, some frozen pineapple, some rawsome bites. They're actually pretty yummy. We've got some soup in here that my mum's made, so she's staying here with us at the moment. She is on a FODMAP diet, so no onion, no garlic, and she's got some low FODMAP gluten-free bread there. But yes, the rest of this is free pickings for us to go through and make something with. We've still got berries for overnight oats, so that's awesome. Lots of veggies, like I said, but the pantry isn't looking much better. Always very hard to show you guys what's in here because it's a bit squishy and they're very deep. We've still got a fair bit of tinned stuff, so tinned legumes, some corn, some tinned tomatoes down the back there, red lentils, more beans, TVP, all those sorts of bits and pieces are still in there. I do have some sauces to make some butter chicken or something. Down next to here, things like polenta, rice, pasta, flour. We've got all of those sorts of staples. So now it's time to start getting a bit creative. All right, so first up, I do want to try and use some of this fresh stuff that is starting to grow legs. So I've got maybe 2 kilos of potatoes here that need using because they are starting to grow legs a little bit, and a couple of carrots, and those bits of celery in the fridge that aren't looking the best. So we're going to do a stew. The stew recipe that I'm sort of loosely following does have mushrooms in it, which I don't have, so I'm going to sub in some beans, but basically lots of veggies. It's going to be a tomato based sauce. So I've got a tin of tomatoes. I do have half a container of tomato paste that needs using. So again, it's another reason why I'm doing this recipe first up, to use up this stuff. We're going to throw in whatever veggies we've got. So potatoes, carrots, peas, throw in an onion. We'll have a look at this celery. If not, I do have those little frozen bags of celery leaves. So typically what I do is I'll bag up the ends of the celery and freeze those to use in spaghetti bolognese and stews and soups and all those sorts of things. And then we put the other ones aside for using for snacks and occasionally using in meals, but mostly this sort of snack stuff, and then this is the cooking stuff. So we are going to use as much of this up as we can, and if not, we'll use some of the stuff out of the freezer. Probably going to throw in maybe a cup of peas. I don't really measure it, just what looks right. 2 carrots and probably 1 kilo of potatoes. And then to flavor it, we're going to throw in some beef stock cubes, some garlic, sort of goes with the onion over there, onion and garlic, beef stock cubes. I've got Italian herbs and a little bit of paprika. And I'm going to throw in a little bit of gravy to help thicken it up and also give it a nice rich meaty sort of flavor, even though there's no actual beef in this. So to go with this, I'm also going to make, or attempt to make, some flatbread. So I'm using a multi-purpose recipe that is sort of like a pizza base recipe, but apparently you can use it for other things as well, but I haven't tried it, so we're going to see how it goes. All I need is self-raising flour, which I've got, some instant yeast, which I've also got. I keep that in the freezer, makes it last longer, a little bit of salt and a pinch of sugar. So we're going to give this a whirl and see how it goes so that we've got something to dip in our stew. I'm just going to start by dicing everything up ready to go, because the only workspace that I really have is also my cooktop. So I'm going to chop everything up and then I'll start cooking. I'm going to start by getting my onions frying off in my large pot. This is actually the deep pot out of my Eco Pot, which is a thermal cooker, and it's great for doing big things like stews and soups and all those sorts of things. So we're going to get these guys in and going to start browning them off. We're also going to throw in a teaspoon of minced garlic and keep these guys cooking. All right, next up, I'm going to get the celery in and we'll start that cooking as well. All right, next up, we'll get the carrots in. Just a little bit of water to stop it all sticking. We'll give that a minute or two before we throw in the potato. All right, and while that's all happening, I'm just going to rinse these beans. Time for the potatoes and the can of tomatoes. I'll add a couple of cans of water just until this is all covered. Next up, we'll throw in 2 beef stock cubes, about a teaspoon of Italian herbs, maybe a bit more, and we'll sprinkle in some paprika. All right, so we're going to let that come to the boil. I still haven't added the frozen peas or the gravy powder yet. We're going to let all these veggies cook first. We'll add them in about 5 minutes before we're ready to serve up. But while this is coming to the boil, then I'm going to bring it down and let it simmer and give it a good, I don't know, half an hour probably. We're going to start making the flatbread. Nope, I forgot something. I haven't put the tomato paste in, so that needs to go in now. And then we'll do the mixed beans, the peas and the gravy powder a bit later on. Right, I'm going to start making the pizza dough slash flatbread dough, which is going to get pretty messy. I'm going to use my hands, so I probably won't see you guys until the end of this. But basically, this is what I'm up to. I'm going to use about 2 cups of flour to 1 cup of water. And I've got 1.5 teaspoons of instant yeast here. Chucking in about half a teaspoon of sugar and about half a teaspoon of salt. So I'll start with about 1.5 cups of flour, chuck in the water, and then I'll keep adding a little bit more flour until it gets to a nice doughy consistency. Give it a good knead. I'm going to let it sit for 10 minutes. And then I'll knead it again, and then I'll cut it up into smaller pieces, roll them out as best I can, considering I don't have a rolling pin, and I'm going to get them into the frying pan. Alright, so there we go. There's my little ball of dough. I'm just going to let this sit for 10 minutes and then I'll chop it up into a couple of smaller bits, squish them out, and I'm going to chuck them in the frying pan. And these are going to be my little flatbreads very shortly. I'm just going to let them sit for a bit. I'm going to get the frying pan on, but before I do that, I've got some black beans, some peas, and some gravy to get into our stew over here, which has been bubbling away. And there we go. So that's our stew all plated up. And we've got a nice stack of 6 flatbreads. Turned out pretty good. And they should be very nice to dip. And we've still got quite a bit of leftovers as well. Alright, so this is what we still have left over after we've all dished up. So if anyone wants to come back for seconds, they can. Otherwise, we'll have some leftovers to pop in the fridge.
It's really good.
Tonight we're going to do a really simple Aloo Mattar. I think that's how it's pronounced. It is Indian potatoes and peas in a curry sauce. Pretty straightforward. What I am going to try and do though is adapt my old curry sauce that we all really liked. It was really simple. And use soy milk instead of coconut cream. So we are experimenting here a little bit. We're going to see how it goes. But basically the curry sauce that I've been making, which has been going down a treat, is diced tomatoes, 1 teaspoon of Keen's curry powder, teaspoon of turmeric, and a teaspoon of garam masala. And like I said, a tin of coconut cream. But we're not doing that tonight. We're going to substitute in some soy milk and see how that works. I'm also going to throw in a chicken stock cube for good measure. And I've had these for ages. They're actually past their best before date. Let's not look too closely at that. But I did read in one of the recipes that I was looking at, this is an optional extra, so I'm going to chuck a little bit of fenugreek leaves in there as well. Don't normally do that, but again, just trying to use up something that I've had in the pantry for way too long and I'm clearly not using it, so let's make that happen. Veggie wise, it's just peas and potatoes. That's pretty much it. I am feeling like I should really add more vegetables because it's normally what I do, but that's not how the recipe goes. And of course we're going to cook up some rice and just serve this curry on rice. That's it. Quick, simple, pretty straightforward. Just got to chop up some potatoes. It's pretty straightforward. I'm pretty much dumping everything in my big pot here. That's a tin of tomatoes. I'm going to throw in a teaspoon each of the seasonings, and I will fill this up and throw in essentially 400 mils of soy milk as well, and the potatoes, and I'm going to get that cooking first. The potatoes are going to take the longest, so I'm going to simmer that for a good 30 minutes, and I will throw the peas in when it's only got like 5 minutes to go. So while that's cooking, I'm going to get 2 cups of rice cooking in my smaller pot. I might even make another batch of the flatbread that you would have seen last night. I'll do that again to dip in our curry. Alright, over the back there we've got our rice finished cooking. Got a couple of flatbreads in the pan. Same recipe as I used in the previous dinner. That was last night. Over here, this is been cooking away. I did actually turn it off just a little while ago. I'm going to throw in the peas, about, oh, I don't know, cup and a half, just until it looks like it's good balance. Give it a good mix around, heat it back up, and that's pretty much it. And there we are, all dished up. So it's pretty simple, but looks good. Hopefully it tastes good too. The plan for tonight is going to be a cheesy rice and vegetables. Now, I've done this a couple of times in the past, experimenting with a couple of different types of cheesy sauces, and I think this is the one that we like the most. So I made this about a week, 2 weeks ago with risotto, and it worked really well. In the past I've done pasta, and I've done white rice. Today we're going to try with some brown basmati rice. So again, it's a little bit experimental. We'll see how it goes. It should work though, in theory. So we're going to chuck in probably a cup and a half of rice. We're going to do a mix of veggies. So I have carrots, peas and cauliflower, and I'm going to throw in some broccoli. I'm probably going to use about half of both of those bags. So lots of veggies in there. That'll be good. And for the sauce, we're going to start off with some onion and garlic, because that's really good. I'll be using some stock. I've got vegetable stock cubes to flavour the rice and cook that as it's going. And then our cheesy sauce, or mock cheesy sauce, we're going to have some butter. I'm going to have the water for the stock as well, which is going to help cook the rice. Some soy milk. Got some Italian herbs here as well. And this is nutritional yeast, which is hiding in our old Parmesan cheese container. So if you don't have nutritional yeast, you can just use the shelf-stable Parmesan cheese for your cheesy hit. We're going to use nutritional yeast, which is actually what's in here, not Parmesan, but they're interchangeable. And I'm going to throw in some lemon juice for a bit of kick. That seems to work really nice. So the recipe is an adaptation from a recipe that I saw using a similar sauce. It's on the Forks Over Knives recipe base. If I remember, I will link it down below for you guys. But let's give this a go, see if we can do a bit of a one-pot wonder with this as well, trying to minimize the dishes here in the caravan. So we're going to fry off the onion and garlic. We're going to partially defrost some of these veggies so that I can cut them up so they're a little bit smaller. We're going to throw in the rice and all the saucy stuff. We're going to give it a good cook. I'll mix it a couple of times, but basically I'm hoping this is all going to cook in my big Curtis stone pan. Alright, I'm going to start off by frying off my onion and a good teaspoon of garlic in 2 teaspoons of margarine. These guys are cooked off nicely, so now I'm going to sprinkle in 1.5 cups of rice. Give these a good mix around, and then I'll throw in 2 cups of stock and start getting in the veggies, which I'm just dicing up over here so they're nice bite-sized pieces. Alright, got some of the veggies in. Here's the rest. They're probably small enough. If not, pick them out and give them a chop. So start mixing this through, and I'll pop the lid on so the rice can cook for a bit while I start working on the cheesy sauce side of things. Cheese sauce side of things, I've got 1 cup of soy milk. I'm going to throw in another 1/2 teaspoon of minced garlic. Throw in probably 2 teaspoons of Italian herbs. 3 heaped dessert spoons of our nooch. That's because I don't actually have a tablespoon measure, but it's going to be pretty close to 3 tablespoons. And it's going to be 2 really good squeezes of lemon juice. Again, it's probably a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half. I'm going to give that a good whisk together. And this is pretty much going to be our cheese sauce. All right, so, steaming up here. Still got a little bit of the liquid in here, but the rice is starting to cook. So I am going to go ahead and pour in the cheesy sauce and start getting that mixed around. And we can finish cooking off. The cheese sauce is going to thicken up as the starches come out of the rice. It'll all cook in together and be a bit of a ricey, vegetable, cheesy, one pot casserole. Alright, so lid's back on. I'm just going to bring it back to the simmer. I'm just going to keep it simmering away until the rice is cooked and most of the liquid is absorbed. It's probably going to take another 15 or so minutes, but just keep an eye on it and give it a bit of a mix around every now and then. If you need to, just add a little bit more liquid if you don't feel like the rice is cooked through enough, or the risotto or whatever it is that you're using. Just adjust that liquid a little bit and just keep going until it's cooked and got a nice sort of cheesy gravy going on. All right, and here we go. Now, being brown rice, I probably should have thought about this a little bit more. It's a bit drier than what it is with white rice, but it still tastes absolutely delicious. And it's going to fill our bellies, and that is dinner done for tonight. All right, we are really starting to get down to the dregs here. So what I'm going to do is a shepherd's pie type situation with a cornmeal or polenta crust. So it'd be like a lentil shepherd's pie meets a tamale pie. So it's got that same sort of cornbread topping, which I'm going to make taste a little bit cheesy with some nutritional yeast, but not a Mexican flavored or a Tex-Mex thing on the bottom. We're going to go more with a traditional shepherd's pie flavored bottom sauce, gravy, if you know what I mean. So for the saucy bit down the bottom, red lentils, I'm going to throw in some creamed corn and some tomatoes, and then I've got garlic and onion. And veggies, we're starting to run pretty low, but I'm going to use up my last of these carrots. I did have to actually top and tail out the nasty looking bits yesterday because they were starting to look a bit howdy-doody, so we need to use those. So I'm going to chuck those in. It's the last of the frozen peas and some celery. And I'm going to flavour it with some actual gravy to make the gravy bottom. And I'm going to chuck in some Italian herbs. Now, you could flavour it however you wanted. And like I said, if you sort of change this combination a bit, you completely change the flavours and do whatever you want. So yeah, we're just working with what we've got. The top is going to be 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of cornmeal polenta. So this is actually polenta because we're in Australia, don't have access to a lot of actual cornmeal, so it is coarser, but polenta. And I'll throw in a cup and a half of soy milk and the parmesan. So I'm going to get the sauce going, cook that. I'm going to make this batter and blob it on top. And then I'm hoping that my oven has enough juice to actually cook this. If not, we're going to have to try and get it in under the grill, which should be interesting because it's only going to grill in tiny little small sections. But I don't know. We'll work it out. We'll see how it goes. This is dinner on the fly. This is pretty much what it looks like every night at our place. Basically, I have no idea what I'm doing. Just quickly to let you guys know where we're at here. Yeah, she's looking pretty empty. The fridge freezer in the car is turned off because this is what we've got left. So after this, we've got some edamame. I do still have some more veggies, so I'm not too worried just yet. I've got half a packet of Brussels sprouts. I've got half a packet of winter mixed veggies, and we got going on here. Oh, some broccoli. You know, one burger. There's a few bits and bobs in here that we can still work through. A couple of things up here. What's that? Some pineapple. I don't know. Just nothing that really goes in a shepherd's pie. But we still have some ideas for tomorrow night. Alright, so I've just really quickly chopped up the veggies that need chopping, which tonight isn't a lot. So I've chopped up one whole onion and what's probably the equivalent of 2 large carrots. It's probably a little bit too much on the carrot front, but I just need to use them up. So I'm going to chuck them in tonight's dinner. Could be a little bit carrot heavy, but you know, that's life sometimes. So because I'm working with such a small space here, I sort of have to prep some things first and then move on to other things. So the plan now, my pan's starting to heat up. I'm going to get the rest of that out in a sec when I've got 2 hands. So I've got my onion and I'm going to throw in 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. Start cooking that off, and I'll throw in my carrots. And then I'll start adding in everything else. So learning to cook without oil has been an interesting process. One of the things that I will say is a good non-stick pan is a must, but the other thing is don't be afraid of this burning and charring, because that's what adds a little bit of flavour. It's just the sugars. So a little bit of water. Woo! Steam up the camera. But that's still where you get your browning from, so it's still there. You still can brown all of your veggies and get that nice caramelization going on. You just got to be a little bit patient, and add a little bit of water. Don't be afraid to let it sit so that those sugars can come out, because that's actually what's burning or browning on the pan. So let those sugars sit and get in there. Just a tiny little bit of water. As you can see, I'm just tipping in a little bit at a time and just scraping it off. And then look at that, beautiful caramelized onions, just like you would if you're cooking with oil, but no oil, just a good non-stick pan, and a bit of water and just a little bit more patience, because it does seem like it's doing nothing for ages, and then all of a sudden it'll start, looks like it's burning to the bottom of the pan, but it's not. It's just doing its thing. Alright, I'm going to get the carrots in. Alright, so carrots and a bit more water again. Just going to keep this cooking, and need to free up my hands again to chuck in the celery, which we'll get going at the same time. And I just keep moving this around, just add a little bit more water every time it looks like it's starting to stick. Just keep it moving and keep it cooking. So celery's in. That's I actually don't really know how much, because they're bags out of the freezer. It's probably maybe 3/4 of a cup of diced up celery. So maybe 3 sticks of celery and the leafy stemmy bit. Don't throw that out. Use that as well. Chuck that in. That's great. Alright, we're going to get the lentils in. So this is half a cup of lentils. And to be totally honest, I haven't decided if I'm going to do half a cup or a cup. I'm going to see how the ratio looks. So simple math on this one is I just double the liquid. So half a cup of lentils, I'm going to want 1 cup of liquid. You use any liquid you want. I'm just going to use water today, but you could use stock. And I'm going to let that cook for probably 15-20 minutes until those lentils have softened off. And just having a quick look at that, I might put in like another quarter of a cup, so it's going to be 3/4 of a cup today. Alright, so that looks good. That's 3/4 of a cup of the red lentils with all the other stuff that I've got in there. So I'm going to add in 1.5 cups of water and then put the lid on, turn it down and just let it cook. Okay, so it's our lentils with their 15-minute head start on the rest of the veggies that I'm going to chuck in there. So the harder vegetables, the carrots, celery and the lentils. All of that water, most of that water is been soaked up by the lentils. So start getting the rest of this stuff in. I'm going to throw in a can of diced tomatoes and a can of creamed corn, and then I'm going to start working on this gravy, which again we're going to go by feel because I don't normally use creamed corn, so there's going to be a little bit more liquid in there. So we're going to see how we go. So let's get these 2 things in, start making it saucy, and I'll be back in a sec. 2 cans are in. I'm also going to chuck in some seasoning at this point as well. Again, not really measuring. We're just going to go, if it'll come out, be 2 teaspoons eventually. Alright, and again, I'll mix this through. We do want a fair bit of gravy for the bottom part, because when the cornbread polenta topping cooks, it is going to suck a little bit of the moisture out, but it's also going to be really nice to have that thick crusty bread topping with a nice sloppy gravy underneath that we can sort of use that to soak that up. So probably going to throw in a can's worth of water, so it's going to be like 1.5 cups, because I do still have the gravy powder to get in here as well. Oh, the old pot's going to be full. So I'm going in with a can of water and 2 heaped dessert spoons of gravy, because I don't actually have any like teaspoon or tablespoon measurements, so work with what we've got. May add a little bit more if it looks like it needs a little bit more as well. We'll see how this starts to thicken up. I still need to get the peas in, but I'm not going to do this and not going to do the peas until this is almost cooked, because I don't want to overcook the peas. But yeah, all right, you know what, we're going to go 1 more heaped dessert spoon. Whoops, as long as I don't drop it. That should be good. Yeah. All right, I'm going to mix this through. I'm going to let it cook for just a couple of minutes, and I'm going to start making that polenta cornbread topping. In this bowl, I'm going to start making the topping. So I've got 1 cup of polenta, 1 cup of self-raising wholemeal flour, and to that I'm going to add 3 of my dessert spoons of nutritional yeast. It's not actually parmesan, it is actually nutritional yeast. I just keep it in this container. If you just wanted to use parmesan, it would give it a nice cheesy flavour. And I'm actually going to throw in a little sprinkle of garlic and onion powder as well. Wasn't going to, but I saw them there in the cupboard and I thought, why not? I think that's going to work nicely. So to that, I'm going to mix that all together, and then I'm going to add 1.5 cups of milk, or, you know, up to 2 cups, just so that it gets a nice thick consistency. It's going to be pretty thick, but it needs to be spreadable. So this is 1.5 cups of milk. I'm just going to mix this together and see what our consistency is like. And like I said, if it's still a little bit too thick, you can add a little bit more, but I think feeling this already, I think it should be pretty good. All right, so that's sort of where we're at. It's pretty good. That's what we want. Sort of like pancake batter. Probably a good way to put it. All mixed together. So over here, we've been just bubbling away. Actually, I'm just going to turn that off for a sec. And I'm going to get these peas in. But that's where our bottom's at. Give that a good mix around. We'll get the peas in, and then we'll get this topping on. And then we're just going to cook the top. All right, it's not a lot of peas. It's just whatever we had left in the bag. I probably would have aimed for about twice as much, but we don't have that many. So a cup of peas would probably be good. This is probably about half a cup of peas, but we'll mix these guys in and through, and then start getting this top on and show you guys where I'm at. But this, we are pushing the friendship here with the old Curtis Stone pan, but let's see how we go. So basically what I'm doing is using the 1/4 cup scoop, scooping up a bit and then just sort of dragging it out across the top. Because it's thicker, it's going to sit on top. I'm just going to keep going around, just keep filling up the pan with blobs of the cornmeal batter, and then I'll spread it out and smooth it out with the spoon once it's all covered. See if I can do this holding the camera at the same time, and show you guys what I mean. But basically just pretty much just like that, and just keep spreading it out. It's pretty thick, the batter. It's kind of what you want. And yeah, like I said, I'll come along and pretty it up with a spoon in a sec. And that's with the top on. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be beautiful. Don't muck around with it too much trying to make the top all perfect and smooth. Just spread it around to get it on there. The next step is to get it into the oven, and we're going to just bake that top section until it's nice and golden. Hopefully my oven is going to work. If not, I'm going to have to chuck it under the grill and we'll see how that goes. But let's try the oven first and see what happens. All right, and that is it. After about 25 minutes in the oven, it's gone hard and turned up at the edges, and it's sort of gone nice and golden. I think that's probably about as good as we're going to get in this oven. At home, you might be able to get a nice golden brown crispy look to it, but that is our shepherd's pie with a polenta crust or cornmeal topping. Let's get it into some bowls. All right, and there we go, dished up. So just sort of chopped the top into wedges, and then we'll just break that up with this blade, just like that. And it's time to eat dinner. Well, that's it from me today. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time here at our place. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, if you could please give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate that. It lets me know the kind of content you guys are enjoying and what you would like to see more of. And if you would like to see more things like this, then I do hope you consider hitting that little subscribe button down below. It is one of the easiest ways to help support my channel, and it is the best way to be notified when new stuff comes out. Well, I hope you guys are having a fantastic week, and I do hope to catch up with you in my next video. Until then, take care, my friends. Bye.